important debate. I was in the Department of Education and Science for 2.5 years and dealt with this issue and met many of the survivors individually and in groups. At all times, what the survivors said to me during the course of that was that they wanted to be believed, they wanted an apology, and they wanted the opportunity to tell their story. And anything that I did in my time as Minister for Education and Science, they were the three things that I believe passionately needed to be done. And painful and all as the details of this report are, I'm glad that Judge Ryan has delivered his report and has delivered it in the timely fashion that he did. I want to commend Judge Ryan, who I appointed, to the Commission for the job that he did, the work that he did, and the speed with which he did that, without in any way lessening the chances of the victims to tell their story. I know as well that the contents of this report has shocked and appalled everyone. The scale and the extent of the abuse that's outlined there, systemic abuse, is such that it's very, very difficult to comprehend. I know many members of the House heard or read of the scale of the abuse for the first time when the report was published a few weeks back. They might now understand better why in 2002, as Minister for Education and Science, I initiated a review of the Commission to inquire into child abuse. In March 2003, I travelled to London to meet with the survivors who resided in the UK. I was requested to do that by survivor groups here in Ireland, who made the point that the Taoiseach made his apology here in Ireland, but that many of the people were abroad, and quite a few of them in the UK, and they wanted to personally hear an apology from the government and from the state.
Make your claim to fame, you prick.
I spent a day in London with over 200 survivors who told me many of the shocking stories that are similar to the stories that appear in the Ryan report. And that meeting convinced me that the victims and survivors needed to have their stories told and confirmed publicly sooner rather than later. Many of the survivors at that time were seriously concerned that a lot of the survivors would be dead before they had the chance to tell their story, to the Commission, and for the Commission to tell it to the public. They also wanted to be able to face their abusers and to explain to them the impact of that abuse while their abusers were still alive. And that's why I reviewed the workings of the Commission, gave it a new mandate following consultations with the survivor groups, and when Judge Ryan agreed to take over from the work of Judge Lafoy. At the time that review took place, there was a minimum of, there was going to be 11 to 15 years of a wait for the survivors if we didn't review. And as I say, I want to pay tribute to Judge Ryan for the work that he did and bringing this to public attention so that people can now react, and the victims and survivors hopefully can feel some vindication. I just want to say that I benefited from a good education from the Christian Brothers. I think that most fair-minded people would say that the vast majority of the religious who taught in our schools were not involved in this. But I was appalled, I have to say, by the attitude of the representatives of the congregations when I met with them in December 2003, when I requested them to pay over $6 million to the state that they'd received from their insurance companies as an ex gratia payment. I told them at that particular meeting that I felt it was their moral obligation to hand that over. We wrote twice subsequently to the representatives, and twice we were refused. They wouldn't hand that over. They felt no moral obligation to handing it over. I have to say that underlined the official attitude of the congregations, I have to say, and we've heard other stories of the official attitude and how they treated victims, even in redress board and so on. So as Cathaoirleach, this is a shameful period in our history. It's one that we can't forget and shouldn't forget. And as I say, I just want to acknowledge the work that Judge Ryan has done in bringing these stories to the public. Thank you.
Good, Margaret. The next slot is Deputy Charles Flanagan, and I think you're sharing time with Deputy